Okay. Welcome to the regular meeting this Wednesday, April 3rd, 2024 of the Park and Recreation Commission. I now call this meeting to order. Giovanna, please call, oh, excuse me. I'm already out of order. Please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Now, Giovanna, please call the roll.
Happy to Chair Fields. Youth Commissioner Jonathan.
Here.
Commissioner Witcher.
Here.
Commissioner Trapp.
Here.
Chair Fields.
Here.
And we do have a quorum tonight. Thank you.
Excellent. As we have been stating now for many months, we are holding meetings in hybrid mode. Information on how to provide public comment is explained at the bottom of each published agenda. If you're here in the meeting and you would like to make public comment, you can fill out a request to speak form and submit it to the recording secretary. If you would like to make a public comment by Zoom, you can do so by clicking on the link at the top of the agenda, use the raise your hand function to be called upon at the appropriate time. Please unmute yourself only when called upon. For phone-in participation, that can be done by calling 408-638-0968 with the conference ID and passcodes referenced in the agenda. The conference ID is 891-1781-1388 and the passcode is 750336. Press *9 to raise your hand to be called on and *6 to unmute. These options for public comment will remain available until I close the public comment period for a specific item or for general public comment. Okay. That being said, the first item on the agenda is the consent calendar. There's one item on the consent calendar for all those following along. Do I have a motion from my commissioners for approval of the consent calendar?
Move to approve the consent calendar. Second.
Excellent. Please call the vote.
Commissioner Trapp.
Yeah.
Commissioner Witcher.
Aye.
Chair Fields.
Aye.
Thank you. Motion has passed.
Excellent. And now next on the agenda is public comment. Members of the public wishing to comment on any item not appearing on the agenda may address the commission at this time. As a reminder, state law prevents us from taking action on any matter that is not on the agenda. However, your comments may be referred to staff for follow-up. Public comment is limited to a total of 15 minutes. However, an opportunity for additional public comment may be provided later in the agenda. With that, Giovanna, is there anyone online who wishes to offer non-agendized public comment?
Yes, we have one member of the public, Amir.
Good evening. This is the Parks and Rec Commission, right?
Correct.
All right, perfect. I would like to put forward just an opinion of mine that I think we need to be planting a lot more trees in the area. Increasing the amount of green space would do wonders for the mental health of residents in the area. Planting more trees in the area gives more shade. It will help reduce the need for air conditioning and other cooling technologies, which will increase the amount of carbon and CO2 in our atmospheres. And also, if we go ahead and plant trees sustainably, there's always the potential for volunteers for tree planting, so we can reduce costs on the taxpayers, so we don't have to throw any sort of tax adjustments in there, but we can also offer it as volunteer opportunities to students and young people, get them out there, get them involved with community engagement. And we should be working on increasing our forested land because we are going to need all that wood in the future when we put up a gallows in front of the Federal Reserve. Thank you.
Okay. Are there any other question or any other public comments on public commenters on Zoom?
I do not see any other hands raised at this time.
Excellent. And is there
Oh.
any, oh,
Somebody just raised their hand. I don't
okay.
know. Okay.
Okay, and that, we'll take that as the last public comment from the virtual space.
Okay, Jerome, if you could please unmute yourself.
Hello, City Council. How are you doing today? I'm doing fantabulous. I just want to say rest in peace for George Floyd. Black Lives Matter. And I want to just have a moment of appreciation for all of the Black men that have so courageously fought for their freedom from the evil white people. Mama,
All right, so unfortunately, this is a reality of virtual meetings, is that inappropriate comments are made. It's happened at our city council meeting, and you know, it deeply unfortunate. With that, is there anyone in this room who wishes to make a public comment? Seeing none, I will close the public comment period, and you know, on behalf of this commission, apologize to this group and to anyone watching online. While it is important, of course, to be able to hear comments from members of the public, this is an unfortunate reality of technology that we're working through. All right, with that said, let's move on to item number 2, which is the current department capital improvement projects update. This is an informational item. We will be taking comments from my fellow commissioners, but not, there is no vote required. Excellent. So with that, we will hear a staff presentation from King Leon and Ron Hostick. I hope I'm saying your name correctly.
Join us over here at the table.
One at a time, or both at a
Oh, well, sorry.
Okay.
Both of you, you want to bring your chairs, sir?
Ron, how do you say your last name?
Positive.
Hostick. Apologies.
Oh, no problem.
And with that, oh,
Good evening, everybody. My name is King Leong, and you did pronounce my last name correctly.
Excellent.
Thank you very much. I'm pleased to give you a update on our CIP projects, and I'll be giving you an update on 4 projects tonight. The first one is the Central Park project. There's actually 2 sub-projects in there. First phase of Central Park project is the Fallen Heroes Memorial project. And that project is in the construction phase.
We actually have the PowerPoint up if you
Oh.
could follow.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Sorry, thank you. Sorry,
All right,
took us a second.
Martin Luther King Pump Shed project is in the construction phase. It was just kicked off recently. There is a construction phase duration of 6 months. The anticipated construction completion is Q1 of fiscal year 24-25, which is summertime. Next slide, please. Now, this is the Fallen Heroes Memorial Project. It is in the construction phase. What the picture you see on the right is the site work portion of the project. And I'm pleased to tell you that it is 75 to 80% complete. We had some significant challenges with rain, as you all know. But they are moving along quite rapidly now that we have some good weather. The other aspect of this project is the construction, the fabrication of the poppy artwork. And that is being fabricated as we speak. The scheduled completion of the poppy artwork is early May. And we anticipate 100% completion of the Fallen Heroes Memorial mid-May. And the project is within budget. Next slide, please. East Hillsdale Park is in the permitting phase. We're anticipating the receipt of planning review comments mid-May. I'm sorry, mid-April. And depending on what kind of comments we get, we may have only one cycle of review comments to respond to, or we may have two. So it's a bit of a dynamic process there. We hope to go out to bid in Q2 of fiscal year 24-25. Next slide, please. Central Park Playground. We are, again, also in the permitting stage. We hope to be receiving our, we hope to be resubmitting our responses to the building department by the end of this month or so. And we hope to be going out to bid in Q1 of fiscal year 24-25, which is July. And we hope to start the construction phase at the end of Q2, which is winter of 24. So that is my presentation for our CIP projects.
We are in the process, actually tomorrow morning, we've received the first round of CalSense controllers. We are upgrading our current irrigation control system from technology from the late 90s to technology that's actually quite modern at this point. This is a process of basically replacing the hardware inside this cabinet with new controllers that will communicate faster and more efficiently with our central control system so that we can keep everything running well through irrigation. It also gives us feedback on what actually ran. We get to schedule it, but we don't know what happens all the time. The system has flow sensing. It is capable of communicating that information back to us and gives us morning updates on whether everything ran according to schedule. Next slide.
Turn that back over.
Yep, sorry, I was
That's
getting
okay.
lost in your unfunded project
Yes.
list, our unfunded project list, actually, I should say. All right, thank you to staff for that presentation. I will ask if commissioners have any questions regarding what we just saw. So now is the time for questions, as opposed to comments, questions. Let's start with Commissioner Trent.
Thank you for the presentation, Shanti. You did update from what you had for the Central Park Fallen Heroes. You did update the completion date from April 9th, which is stated here in our document, to mid-May. Did I get that correct? So, okay, so like 6 weeks, we think will be. Okay, that was my first question. Thanks for answering that one. My other question is on the irrigation controller improvements. So with this new technology, have you compared to other installations of any potential cost savings that we can come up with, since now you're gonna have a little bit more education as to how it's actually being implemented?
I think one of the critical aspects of the new technology will be our ability to communicate better. Right now, it's a little spotty. So we have a meter that measures the amount of water lost each day from the plant material. We have a local meter. There's a historical number that is saved that is typically high, has been our experience. So by using a local meter, we're able to keep the water usage down to a more accurate level. We believe that we're going to see 3 to 5% savings on water.
that across everywhere there is a meter, or is that just?
Everywhere that we have a controller, yes. And this year we're replacing half the controllers, so we're doing 21 controllers this year. We're doing 20 controllers next year, so I'll be starting the process of getting that all finalized, hopefully by July.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Commissioner, I always say your name wrong. I'm so sorry.
You always get it right.
Do I?
We do.
Oh, see, then I should just believe in myself.
You should.
Commissioner Witcher.
We all should.
Indeed.
I
Any
do have a
questions
question.
for the staff?
Those were good, really good presentations. King, a question about the equipment going into both the East Hillsdale and Central Park. I walked through East Hillsdale a while back, and the equipment was as old as I am. And in a way that was good because it lasted a long, long time. And I also remember going through Beresford Park about 15 years ago and noticing how the plastic equipment was breaking. How long is the new equipment expected to last? And was lifetime how serious a consideration was equipment lifetime?
Well, as you pointed out, the play equipment that lasts the longest were probably made out of metal. And now the new play equipment is made of composite materials or plastic in some cases, or some sort of polymers. Those do not have as long as a longevity as metal does. We anticipate, based on manufacturer's information, the life cycle is 10, 15 years. However, let me qualify that. Even if the equipment lasts longer, design standards and industry safety standards may change sooner than that, which may prompt consideration of replacing the equipment sooner. Does that answer your question?
It does, and obviously my concern is it's very expensive.
It is.
I hate to be sitting here, our successors to be sitting here 10 years from now, looking at another large bill for new equipment, if there was a way that we could avoid that through different choices now.
That's a good question. We can only design to what is available in the current market, to the latest technology. And, based on the reputation of the manufacturers. So our landscape architectural consultants has recommended using industry-leading manufacturers, so we can get the best warranty, the best designs.
That's a good practice.
It is good practice.
Good, thank you.
Any more questions?
No.
Excellent. Youth Commissioner, whose last name I've forgotten.
Jolniker.
Jolniker. Ah, yes. Commissioner Jolniker, do you have any questions for staff?
I just wanted to thank you two gentlemen for coming out tonight. I just have just a basic question. You can give me a ballpark here. When will the Central Park renovations be fully complete? Do you have an estimate or anything?
Well, the Central Park improvements is a multi-phase project. There are many components to it. So if you are asking about just phase one of the project, I would say that would be completed sometime in the fiscal year of 25-26.
Okay. Thank you.
Any more questions? Excellent. I did have a question, which is, right now we're talking about sort of the current improvement plan, and then I know the next item is the next sort of phase. To what extent are we getting all of these projects that are in the current plan done on time or close to on time? And are there any projects that are really standing out that are taking a lot longer or significantly over budget?
Hi. hop
And
in
Joanne,
on
please.
that. Yeah, so
Like,
thank you.
basically, like, what are we moving into the next cycle that,
Yeah.
that's the question.
Yeah, so and I thought that this kind of led nicely into the next item.
Yes.
Luckily, and we will be having Public Works come and provide an update on the other projects that they kind of manage and oversee that are related to parks and recreation facilities in the upcoming months. But what I will say is for my first year here, we did not have a project manager. So there were a couple of projects that kind of stalled out
Okay.
due to them being in the construction document phase. So that's really the projects that we spoke about tonight, including Fallen Heroes and the Central Park Playground, as well as East Hillsdale. So you've seen a bit of delay on those projects due to no one managing them within internally. From that perspective, King joined us in July, and so he has gotten up to speed very quickly. And obviously we've seen a lot of movement since his arrival. Central Park Playground is a very big project as well, so we're trying to focus our efforts to make sure that the projects that were in the queue when I arrived, when King arrived, get managed and set through. I think that once you see construction start on Central Park, that will increase the availability of King to work on the other items. And so we don't know what will be ultimately approved in the budget, but what we're putting forth, we can talk about in the next item. I think it would be a better time.
Definitely.
Yeah.
No, I just want to say, when I was very early to this commission, we looked at a whole series of playground equipment options for East Hillsdale. And I remember going, oh, this is gonna be so cool. And then it seemed like it sort of got stuck, and I'm not interested in sort of the why. I just want to know, like, well, I'm interested in the why, but not the who, I guess is how I should say it. So it's useful to know that there was that gap in staffing. Okay. But are there any, I guess my question really is, are there any, supply issues or procurement issues or anything that's stalled any of these projects? It sounds like no. Okay. Great. So with that, before we move to item number 3, I do just want to go back to something from earlier. I know I personally said I was sorry about what had happened in terms of public comment, but the city of San Mateo does have an official statement that I will read for the sake of the record. And also, I imagine that staff put a lot of thought into this, more than my ad hoc comments, so I will just share with the group. We in the city of San Mateo condemn hateful, anti-Semitic, and racist speech in the strongest possible terms. At a time of rising anti-Semitism and hate speech, we do not stand for it. Hate speech can have real consequences. The country has had numerous mass shooting events, including at the Pulse nightclub in Orlando in 2016, the Tree of Life Synagogue in Pittsburgh in 2018, and at the Poway Chabad in 2019. Poway is the city of my birth, and my parents belong to a synagogue in Poway. That's me editorializing. We embrace the rights of all individuals in our community to be who they are in terms of their sexuality, gender, religious orientation, and beliefs, and we always will do so. I'm proud of San Mateo for writing this statement and fully endorse it and appreciate that it exists, but also will just say I'm sad that we have to spend time in a meeting on that.
If we can take a recess before we open up public comment.
We sure can. With that, 5 minutes before we take public comment and move on with our meeting. I call this meeting back to order. We are still on item number 2. We are returning, we are in public comment for item number 2. So we welcome speakers to provide public comment. We welcome speakers to providing public comment, but please be advised this is a limited public forum. As such, speakers must stay on topic if speaking on a particular agenda item. All public comments should be relevant to item number 3, current department capital improvement projects update.
Number 2.
Yes, item number 2, I'm so sorry. I still read it correctly. Okay. Speakers must stay on topic when speaking on this particular agenda item. If speaking during, no, that doesn't apply. If speakers fail to follow these rules, they will be warned, and we will cut off public comments if they are off topic or inappropriate or offensive in some way. With that being said, do we have any public comments on this item?
We have one hand raised at this time. Jim, if you could please unmute yourself. Jim, are you there?
All right, with that silence, we will interpret that to mean a decline to give public comment unless we hear otherwise on the meeting. And I will close public comment virtually. Is there anyone who wishes to make a public comment on this item in the room? Seeing none, I will close public comment. Do any of my fellow commissioners have a comment on this item?
I do.
Excellent. We'll start with you, Commissioner
So-
Butcher.
If anyone hasn't taken a chance yet to go by and look at the Fallen Heroes Memorial, please do. I walked through there today. It's much farther along than the picture that King showed. And the way that it's framed in oaks and the theme on it are really very moving.
Excellent. And I suspect that in announcements, we will be hearing about, maybe we will be hearing more about the public going to see that memorial. Do I have any other comments from my fellow commissioners? Seeing none. Excellent. With that, we can move to item number 3, the next 5 years. This is the proposed 5-year, that's 2024 to 2029 Parks and Recreation Capital Improvement Plan. And with that, we'll be hearing from Nick as he makes his way to the hot seat, which is probably pretty tepid. And we look forward to hearing your presentation.
Hey, good evening, commissioners and members of the public. My name is Nicholas and I'll be presenting the fiscal year 24-29 capital improvement plan. So this is our 5-year plan, and Giovanna, if you could, when you're ready, if you could move to the next page, please. Thank you very much. And for those of you that aren't familiar with a capital improvement plan, it's a prioritized plan of capital expenditures that provides for rehabilitation type of improvements to building, grounds and equipment within parks and recreation centers. And the reason why we make this point is because of the fact that we're trying to, this plan addresses not your normal like everyday wear and tear and repairs. This is about the larger items that we do to address playground rehabilitations or facility rehabilitations or construction of new facilities that we need to carry out in order to keep our parks as beautiful and as operational and accessible as they should be. So part of the CIP process is that we meet with internal stakeholders, we partner greatly with Public Works, as Steve is here this evening as well. and finance in order to understand exactly what needs to happen in our parks. And as well as that, in order to ensure that our financial plan kind of meets our needs. And then as well as that, we assess the needs of the community and the area that our programs serve. And from that, we develop a blueprint that includes priorities, timelines, and cost estimates. Having said that, and I would like to also, for those of you that remember that were here for the presentation that we did a couple of months ago with the fee schedule, you may remember that when there's development in the city of San Mateo, like especially for housing, we collect fees, and that's what's regarded as the in lieu fees. And the reason why they're called in lieu is because you can also dedicate land, but that's something that just doesn't happen. So instead, we have a calculation that calculates the value of the land that is required, converts it into hard dollars, and that's what we collect, with which we usually or historically have funded most of our works. So over the next 5 years, and then you might say, well, it's only 2 years there. And the reason why we're going to focus on the 2 years is because of the fact that this year has been quite fortuitous for us in the sense that we've been able to collect a large in lieu fee payment, which was approximately $4.7 million. And this has been the largest amount of fees that we've collected in a number of years. The pandemic put a hard stop on a number of projects going ahead in terms of construction. And as a result, for the last 3 years, 4 years, we haven't collected probably not more than $1 million in total. So the fact that we collected something like $4.5 million in one hit this year, with also a further 3.3 on the horizon, is very exciting for us because it's given us that financial capacity to actually go forth with a lot of the projects that we wanted to complete. So in having said that, if you were to look, so having said that, that's why we're looking at only the first 2 years, because these are the ones that we feel that we have a better chance of delivering. Although we've got a 5-year plan, the first 2 years are the ones that we are have a high degree of confidence that we can do. So in saying that, in 24-25, we have approximately $11 million scheduled. And then in 25-26, we have approximately $19 million scheduled. As King mentioned, the two biggest projects that we have on the books at the moment are Central Park and then East Hillsdale Park. So they will probably consume most of the funds and the work that we are doing. So that's what will be the focus of our plan. As well as that, and to address the call that we received at the very beginning, we also have a robust tree planting program coming up, and it is much more ambitious than other years. And also to clarify that $350,000 that's there also includes a mulching program. So it won't be just trees, it'll be trees and a mulching program for our medians in order to ensure the longevity of the trees that are there. So that way, San Mateo stays green even with the median strips are concerned. And we've been also lucky enough to receive some grant funding for different projects, which is also a very, very welcome funding source for us because it does relieve some of the pressure that the department faces fiscally. When you're ready, Giovanna. So there's a list of current projects that we have there. I don't know whether you want me to read them all one by one. I think you may want to do that for yourself. But if you have any questions, there's enough of us here this evening to answer any questions that you may have in terms of any of these projects that you see there. And these are all current projects that we're works in progress. WIP, I guess, is the kind of how you'd characterize them. And when you tell me, we will move on to the next page, but wait for you to see if there's anything.
I'll just give a little background as well on this. some of these projects were put forth last year, and so they need additional funding to be able to finish them up. And one of the projects we talked about was the irrigation controller upgrade, and instead of trying to do that all in one year, we split the project into 2 halves. And so we're conducting the first half this year in this fiscal year and the next half in the next fiscal year. But again, citywide park fencing and shelter structures, that is an ongoing project that we try and put funding towards on an annual basis. One of the items on there is the skate plaza update. So that's a project that we already have funding, but we need additional funding to follow through and continue on.
And is that at Shoreview?
That is at Shoreview, correct. And like the skate park out at Shoreview, we also need additional funding to do the pickleball courts out there. The one thing that I do want to call out on here is the citywide facility condition assessment. That is, again, we do different assessments throughout different fiscal years. This past fiscal year, which you will see in the new projects, we assessed roofs. And so we are doing a citywide facility condition assessment. That's the 600,000. So once we have more information on those items, that will help us further develop the out years in our fiscal out years in the rest of the capital improvement plan. So we wanted to wait to get some of that information before going through the process of trying to determine what projects to include in the out years. So hopefully that's a little bit of helpful information for the slide.
So just so I can summarize kind of what you said before, I'm sure that I kind of understood it. So, Gianna, can you go back to the previous one? So you had said that you received I won't say a windfall, but an unexpected amount of money this fiscal year that you feel that is going to help carry into the next years. And so with that being said, for the previous conversation we had in previous meetings, we had to put some things on hold because of the pandemic and not getting money coming in. Did we take something that was in backlog and pull it forward, or did we just address what was currently in the current plan with the windfall?
Yeah, in terms of, so when you say did we take something that was planned in terms of the projects that we have there?
Something that maybe you, and because we didn't have that kind of in lieu of funds during the pandemic that we kind of put on hold, did you pull that forward, or did you take what was currently in scope for that?
Correct, and there's kind of like a twofold issue there as well. The Central Park project has actually, unfortunately, because of the supply chain issues and everything else that's happened in the world, has actually increased in cost considerably. So that's put additional pressure on us to complete that. So it's been kind of like a moving target that we had some money and we thought that we can do something, and then costs just kept increasing, and that's made it even more difficult. So same thing with East Hillsdale. It looks like it'll be costing up, more than comparable parks did 3 years ago. So even though we were having some money, we had some money there, it's just that the cost creep was just such that we just weren't able to keep up. And hence the comment that I made earlier that even though we've got more monies now, we're going to focus on completing the 2 projects that we have, the highest priority and the ones that we've invested in. And then hopefully as the other monies are coming in, then we can start working down the list. But for the money that we have, only the first 2 years seem to be attainable. After that, we're going to be in a holding pattern because the last 3 years have kind of taken that little bit of that confidence out of that wind out of our sails in terms of being able to say that, we're good for the next 5 years. We only have barely enough to cover the next 2 years, and that's only if certain projects don't go ahead or if more monies come in. It's still up in the air.
Okay, should we continue forward and then we'll get to questions?
Yeah, not a problem. So for 24-25, we have a number of additional requests. and some of them are quite small, such as the Beresford pickleball courts. Obviously, we're trying to invest in something that's very in demand in the community. We have a number of maintenance issues, as you can see from the roof replacements that we're trying to do, wall repairs and the like. And then as well as that, there is the biggest project that we have there is the Lakeshore Childcare Facility improvements at $1.25 million, which we would like to move on in order to enable for licensed daycare childcare during the day childcare facilities, because at the moment we're only offering, we're not offering like a complete, morning to afternoon kind of program. So they're all the new requests that we're trying to achieve. And to the right, you can see all the different funding sources that we have there. Okay. Next steps for the city, not just us, is City Council will be receiving the CIP plan preview, and that will be the CIP plan for the whole of the city, not just for us. And that will be presented on April 15. And then as well as that, we are, in terms of facilities conditions assessment, we will come back for commission feedback in 2024, obviously in the next 12 months. So yeah.
I just want to provide a little bit more context.
Please.
Sorry, Stephen Wu is our project manager in Public Works. So
Thank you for joining us.
obviously, we divide and conquer with all the projects that happen at facilities as well as parks. And so Stephen has played an integral role from the Public Works side. That's why you see general fund monies as well. It's not just park impact and in lieu fees that go towards projects. There are general fund dollars that go towards these projects as well. So Stephen is here too to help answer any questions that fall under his purview and projects that he oversees. So happy to have you proceed.
Excellent.
Oh, sorry, one other thing.
Yes, please.
There were some corrections that we
Okay,
had to do
okay.
to the Excel spreadsheet that was published with the packet.
Yep.
And so those are in red, and some of them are just name changes where we cleaned up a word or two. And some was, we had general fund monies where it was supposed to be impact fees or in lieu fees. And so those are highlighted here to show you that the changes were made, and we will publish it, with the updated packet after the meeting.
Excellent. That I will say, Nicholas, thank you for your presentation. And open it up for questions from my commissioners. Commissioner Witcher, would you like to start?
Yes, thank you.
Excellent.
Do you prefer Nick or Nicholas?
I'll go by Nicholas, thank you.
Nicholas, thank you for your presentation. Thank you for the hard work on the numbers. I want to make sure that I was listening correctly. Did you say that we're confident in the funding that we have for this year and next fiscal year, and then for the subsequent 3 years, the funding is quite uncertain?
We have, so at the moment, we have approximately $12 million in the bank, 12.5, somewhere around that number. And then we've got an additional 4.5 that's just landed, so it takes to about 16.7. So with that amount of money, we can kind of speak to what we have. For example, we think that Central Park is going to be around $12 million mark, and then East Hillsdale is going to be around 3.5. So those two parks by themselves deplete most of the monies that we have for those two. And then the rest of the, the irrigation controller is a small project in comparison, because that's like approximately $200,000, right? So we can do a number of smaller ones, and then hopefully if like I said, there's another 3.3 that looks very favorable in terms of landing. So if we get the 3.3, then that gives us, an expanded scope to do some more. However, anything else after that, we have, I think it's approximately $30 million in forecast fees to arrive over the next 5 years. But again, speaking from the historical receipts that we've had the past 3 years, we just don't want to say that this money will arrive because we just don't know. Hence why we're only focusing on the first 2 years.
So the other couple projects that are big ticket items are the King pool and facility improvements, as well as the Lakeshore. I think they total in the second year, between the first and second year, several $1,000,000. Those are projects that we're interested in moving forward on, and we're pursuing different grants and different fundings outside of our in lieu fees. And then if we don't get impact and in lieu fees when we come to the next fiscal year, that's when we start to negotiate and determine, do we need additional general fund dollars? Do we go to Measure S and ask for monies? So they're placeholders, to say that we're gonna spend that money out of that account. It's kind of not that way. It's more predicting what we're expecting it to cost, with a lot of things going on behind the scenes to try and get additional funds, which we were lucky to receive $850,000 towards the King Center improvements recently. So that alleviates some of those challenges as
What
well.
was the source of that 850?
Federal funding.
So what I'm trying to understand is how I should view these 3 half-year numbers for the budgeting for these 3 out years. Should I take this as this is a nominal case based on our experience with funding? Our nominal projection for funding that will come in is, I think you said 30 million.
Yep.
And given that, our nominal projection for what we will spend is the numbers that I see in the 3 out-year columns. There's some uncertainty to it. Can you? It's hard to quantify uncertainty. How much uncertainty do you feel?
So the in lieu fees, if you remember from the previous meeting.
It comes from.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, please go ahead.
Yeah, it's basically all to do with economic conditions related to housing. So the projects that have come in, like Kiku Crossing and the one that we're expecting, are projects that have been in the works. But even with the one that the second project that we're waiting on, apparently the money will come in because they're looking at, I believe there's going to be a transaction that might necessitate the payment of the fees. So until the housing market kind of gets to a robust stage, we're not, and I can't speak to it because I'm not a land economist, but until that market kind of gets to a robust place like it was, a few years back, then, our confidence kind of ebbs and flows with that. So how confident? There's a housing crisis, there's a shortage. I mean, yeah, that's the confidence.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Is this an appropriate time to ask questions about specific line items?
Yes.
And I will be fast.
Please.
I noticed there's resurfacing of several basketball courts. Washington Park is not listed here. And Washington Park's this lovely little park over there in Parkside. And it has this sad, almost abandoned basketball court. And it actually makes me feel depressed to go in there, and here's a lovely park, and there are big, huge padlocks, and have been for some time on what could be a wonderful public facility. What is the prioritization process where we have several other basketball courts being resurfaced, and really what's the main feature of that one park? It's probably the biggest feature of the park is not on here.
I'll let Stephen provide an update on that.
I'm the project manager for facilities. I'm actually in charge of Washington Park.
Oh, perfect.
It has been actually under construction since December or maybe November, I believe.
And I haven't been there since last fall, so I could just be ignorant.
And so we were originally scheduled to be finished much earlier before the rains began. But due to some unexpected findings in the soil, it's been delayed.
Sure.
But we are resurfacing that court as we speak. And it should be completely finished once we find 5 days of dry weather.
Which we would all love to have. And so Is that from last year's budget? Is that why I
It
don't see
is,
it? Okay,
correct.
perfect, great. About the resurfacing cost, $400,000 to resurface a basketball court. It seems, so I'm not a civil engineer. I've never done anything like this. But what's a basketball court? 50 by 92 feet, so just round out, it's like 6,000 square feet. And here's one that's $450,000 to resurface 6,000 square feet. It seems expensive to me. Why is the cost so high? I think what's the cost of building a house? $600 per square foot?
I'll answer your first question regarding the basketball court first.
I'm
And I'll
sorry,
answer
I
your
was
second one.
being rhetorical, and I will control myself.
So, for instance, Washington Park basketball court is a great example. What we found on site, the existing conditions, for example, the soil conditions were fairly poor. But then over the years, we found out there were about 5 to 6 layers of topping, resurfacing over the years. And so each layer was a different material, composite, and we actually found a hazardous material in one of those layers as well.
Sure.
And so it depends on the location and also depends on what the existing conditions are. If the subbase is unstable, for example, then simply resurfacing will not solve the issue. And so at Washington Park, I believe there was some cracking and some failure in the existing surface, sort of toward the freeway. And there was a lot of collapse. There was basically a minor collapse of one corner. So to rebuild that,
Yeah, I recall
there
that.
is some cost associated with that. And so civil engineer has to be involved. We do have to remove some of the existing material and then rebuild the base before we can put a new topping on. So it's kind of what goes into a typical resurfacing project. And so to kind of partially answer your second question, similar to buildings where we have an existing building that's maybe 50, 60 years old, whether it's residential or commercial, sometimes we run into unknown conditions or unexpected conditions, such as dry rot or cracking in the foundation, uneven soils, things like that. And so the cost does go substantially higher than initially anticipated because those are hard to anticipate. So typically when we go into a project, we have what's called a risk register or contingency. And that's really how we prepare for the worst case scenario.
Okay, so is the $400,000 per court a worst case number? Are there potential savings?
So yes and no. Depending on each project, we try to budget appropriately without overestimating. So we find out what's reasonable based on our experience in the city, and we develop the budget accordingly.
Great. Just for my own curiosity, this last question, where might I learn more about that? Because again, I'm not a civil engineer, but it seems like a lot of money for putting down a basketball court.
And so I'm available to answer you if you want to learn the ins and outs of each location. Each location is very different depending on the soil conditions.
Good, let's end it that way.
Yes.
Perfect, thank you. That's all I have.
Excellent. Commissioner Trapp, questions?
So mine is kind of a accumulation of both presentations, thank you. And I see a lot of new projects that are listed here and the project numbers are so new to have a project number. But then we also talked about things that maybe have been put on hold due to funds and things like that. how is the assessment done to say, okay, we're gonna carry something in as a new project versus pulling something that's been delayed or backlogged or sunset or whatever is, and then coupled with in different neighborhoods, how do you assess that one neighborhood gets a project and another neighborhood doesn't get a project? There's a lot of questions.
So yeah, so I'll break this question up in a couple of ways. In terms of the work that Steve and his team do, they have a different type of prioritization process, and it ranks them, I believe, in 1 to 6 in terms of what needs to happen, you know, sooner rather than later. So for example, you know, a roof might be, you know, in danger of collapse, so therefore that one has to be done straight away. Whereas, you know, another roof might be just a leak, and therefore that one can, you know, we can keep patching it until we're ready to do it. So that's one way of doing it. In terms of the projects that we do for the ones that we might be focused on, Joanne mentioned the skate park plaza. So that's one that we, you know, people came to the commission and they came repeatedly and asked for it. So, you know, obviously it was a need. So therefore we've invested, you know, close to $500,000 on that particular project. Washington Court was one that we also received a number of calls about, and emails and letters and what have you. So that's something that also we're responding to. And same with pickleball courts, just that, you know, the sport has just taken off and is very, very popular. As well as that, we do the annual park survey, and there's an opportunity there for people to voice what they want to see more of in parks. And there seems to be an ongoing request for more shade structures and park and benches. Obviously, the weather's getting warmer and warmer, so people that, you know, especially those with grandchildren or children that visit those parks, they want to make sure that there's an adequate shade. So we take all of those factors into consideration and we make a decision. And as well as that, we have sessions like this where we bring the plan to the commissioners, and hopefully we can hear back from them whether there's, you know, a particular area that, you know, they feel that may need urgent attention versus a different attention. And then last but not least, it's also the fact that, you know, in a perfect world, we'd fix everything tomorrow. However, it's also a case of, you know, how do you fund all these parks? And East Hillsdale, which is by no means a major park, has got a estimate attached to it of about $3.3 or $3.4 million, King.
Construction is about 2.7, but there's soft costs associated with the design fees.
And that, sorry, yeah. And that by no means is a, you know, a large park. So it's, you know, even though we, like I said, then the next stage is to actually see whether your financials are there in order to support all the work that you want. So hence why we try to prioritize based on the money that we have and the, you know, the forecast that we see in terms of the funds on the horizon.
Last question on that. So thank you for that reply. So is there any public transparency in that prioritization? So if, for instance, there was one that maybe for whatever factors and factors that went into your decision fell low, but public maybe galvanized behind it and said, oh, well, we want to, you know, donate,
yeah,
volunteer, whatever. Is there any transparency in that?
We published the priority, the list, as you say, this evening. So therefore the public's obviously welcome to come and voice their opinion. As well as that, I remember from approximately 3 years ago where we, and I think Commissioner Fields, you may have been here at the time, we discussed a master plan for Bay Meadows. And the public got very galvanized about not doing anything at Bay Meadows. And they turned up in droves and they just basically said, hey, we don't want to see anything at Bay Meadows. We're very happy with the way it is. So that was something that, for example, the public has an opportunity at all times to come in and speak to it. And as well as that, when we do decide on doing a park, we will go out there and do outreach and, you know, make sure. And last but not least, the other thing that we look at is the certain parks get prioritized based on factors such as ADA compliance, whether, you know, are they accessible? Are they, you know, suitable for use for everyone? And then last but not least, the comment section in our survey has got a number of empty boxes where you can just free form and put whatever you want in there. And we do take the time to actually try to read them and kind of get a feeling for what people are saying is important. I'm gonna sort of like delve a little bit deep, but in particular, the software that we used to have a word cloud as well. And that was one of the tools that we used to use. And it was like, it's always shade structure, sales and, benches. And if we were to see that there's, a particular park that keeps coming up, then people will comment that we want to see this improvement at that particular location, then we will reprioritize and think about it. So in the AR, I believe we have listed that there's the parks that we feel are next online in order to be addressed. And that's a document that's available to the public, and people could ring up and say, hey, I don't agree with that prioritization. I think it should change to be something different.
Can I just answer one other question about the new? So this is what staff are proposing to you all. So, that's why we're collecting your feedback and input. We will then present it to the council. And again, that's why we don't assign project numbers until it's approved. But there are definitely an endless amount of projects to come forward. So just wanted to indicate, how this is an active process.
Excellent. Commissioner Joliger, any questions?
I don't have any.
Excellent. I do have a few questions. Nicholas, can you tell me why in FY25 there's $1.3 million from Measure S, and then in FY26 there's $500,000?
The reason why is because we, and that is for the, so that is to fund or to partially set some funds aside for the replacement of the synthetic field turf. And the reason being is that a synthetic field has a life of 8 to 10 years. And then at every 8 to 10 years, we need to consider whether the field will need to be replaced. So at the time, we went to the commission, to the Measure S Oversight Committee, and we had the one park that was completed, and we said, hey, we're going to need to redo this in approximately 3 years. So therefore, we need you to please give us $1.5 million, because that's what we think it's going to cost.
Yeah.
Of course, probably be a lot more than that. But we went and saw them, and we made that request. So that's why they gave us $1 million in year one, and then $500,000 in year two. And even with them, they have to deal with a lot of competing requests and priorities. So in order to make their money go as far as possible, they will break up or give you the money out in ways that makes it, keeps everybody happy in the city.
Okay, so it's that committee that's allocating specific funds. It's not that there's a shift in the total. Okay.
Yeah.
Great. That makes sense now.
Thank you.
Okay. I just want to say, I know that when the East Hillsdale Park a playground had come up, we had debated a restroom and had decided not to put in a restroom. Personally, I don't have children, but I have several friends with young children where walking home even 10 minutes is too far. And so while I know it is expensive and challenging, I would like to see more restrooms at our community parks. I know this is challenging, but I just want to say it out loud, which leads me to my next question, which is, given what you said about really sort of unpredictable in lieu fees, and looking at this beautiful list of $141 million of unfunded projects, is there discussion of other funding sources? While it's great to get $850,000 from the federal government, and I know there are grants and philanthropic efforts, but like what are the what is the conversation around a bond or some other more significant funding source?
So yeah, I can take that. You know, we have a lot of new leadership in the city. And so we're trying to wrap our arms around all the things that need to be done and still try and understand how we're going to strategize about accomplishing those things. So I would say that at this point in time, you know, that's part of the reason why the facilities assessment is on as a new, not a new project, but as a new endeavor for next year, is to have a better understanding of the true needs from a facility standpoint. And then we'll likely do something similar in the following year for park amenities. So just to try and develop a maintenance schedule and things of that, a maintenance program, so that we have a better understanding of lifespans. Because even though our playground, a lot of our playgrounds have older equipment, you know, the metal equipment and such. Those have actual longer lifespans than the newer equipment. So you can't just go based on the year that the equipment was implemented. Also, you know, we have different wear and tear, weather elements that affect different things, you know, and so trying to have a better understanding of that will help us develop better maintenance, and then will help the longevity of the preservation of those. So yes, the answer to your question is we're still strategizing on how we are going to tackle that.
I appreciate that update. Excellent. With that, I will say thank you to my fellow commissioners and open it up for public comment on this item. A reminder, if you are on Zoom, please use the raise hand function to be called on. Please unmute yourself upon being called on. And again, remember, please stay on topic. If you are not on topic, you will be, your public comment time will be concluded for you. And with that, I will say, Giovanna, do we have anyone here for public comment on this item?
We do not have any hands raised at this time, Jeffrey.
Excellent, and I will close public comment in the virtual space and in the real life space. Any public comment? Seeing none. And with that, I will say to my fellow commissioners, do you have any comments you would like to make about this plan? Commissioner Trapp? No comments. Commissioner Witcher?
No, just thank you for the hard work. Thank you for staying late at work to be here with us.
And Commissioner Jollinger, any comments?
No comment.
Excellent, and Chair's prerogative, I will just say, it sounds like a field trip or two might be in our future to visit some of these projects. You know, I think while it's always lovely to be in this room with all of you, truly what makes San Mateo an excellent and wonderful place to live is all of our parks and wonderful facilities. And while some of them, I think, could use some love, and in fact, millions of dollars worth of love, I think really digging into some of those, sorry, digging in maybe is not the right way to say this, but and please, maybe it is the right way to say it. But really being joined by staff for such a visit would I think really be beneficial to understanding sort of the scope of some of these projects and how the decisions we make have real material and positive impact on the city. So I'll look forward to those, and I'll also just say that you know, any budget decision is really a plan, and I think we don't take that lightly, and so we know we have only so many resources to disperse, and we want to do that thoughtfully. So with that, I will say you know, appreciate all the comments, and really again, as my fellow commissioner said, appreciate all of you being here and working late for the people of San Mateo. And you know, we look forward to improvements citywide. Okay, item number 4, the election of officers. I do just want to say Heather Wolnick, who had been serving as vice chair of this commission, resigned from the commission, and she was a wonderful commissioner, and we wish her well, and we will be celebrating her service, I believe, at our next meeting with probably a very nice looking certificate and lovely words, but I'll just say it was wonderful for me to serve on the commission with her, and I will miss her comments, and I look forward to seeing who might step up and apply and who will join us on this esteemed commission. And with that, we have a somewhat challenging task of, or maybe not, maybe we'll be pleasantly surprised, of nominating a new set of officers for this commission. I will just say something great about the state of California is that we deliberate in public, so none of us have discussed this in private. We are generally, the way this works, although convention is not required, is a rotation based on how long you've been on the commission. Commissioner Kaipe, I believe is the second most senior person, although she is not here, and I don't know how we feel about volunteering her. But with that, I'm happy to entertain comments from the commission or nominations, unless Director McGreeny has anything she would like to add. Okay, very good. So with that, I will say discussion or nominations. This is the floor.
Is it just for the chair and the vice chair?
Correct.
That's all?
Yes.
So, and just to reiterate, for the vice chair, it would be effective at the next meeting. And then for the chair, that rotation would happen in July, so it would be through June. So we're combining this item as one item, although the effectiveness of each chair and vice chair is different dates.
Thank you for
Yes,
clarifying.
sorry about that.
That's because.
Correct.
Okay. And so is there any stipulation, since this is my first time serving on the commission, of people repeating? Are you, as long as they're. So a comment before I make a motion.
Question is Commissioner Chiappi aware, or do we know if she would be willing to serve as vice chair? Because I'll back that with a comment. I think rotation is fair.
Yep.
And gives everybody a chance, everybody gets a voice, unless they really don't want to do it.
So, okay, I should clarify that actually, since I have been serving as chair, if we were following the rotation, I would cycle off as chair, Commissioner Kaipe would become chair. If, again, by seniority, I believe then Commissioner Trapp would become vice chair. Is that correct? Is that the right timing?
I think you both were appointed at the same time.
Ah, so you could rock, paper,
Yes, yeah,
scissors for it,
yeah.
or flip a coin, or whatever. But so that would be,
Ladies
so
first.
here, I'll say also, that being said, Commissioner Kaipe is not here. She was appointed to the commission a month
before.
prior to the two of you.
Yes.
So I will also say, I will volunteer to continue on as chair if that is desirable to the group, but I do not have to do that.
Ready for our motion?
And I will happily entertain any motions.
I move that Ms. Fields stays as chair, but we elevate Mr. Richard to be vice chair. That's my motion.
Isn't that two motions?
Yes.
Yeah.
We have to deal with them
Okay.
To do it
separately.
one at a
Okay.
time.
I move that Honorable Commissioner Fields stays as chair until whatever the.
For the next year.
I second that motion.
Excellent. And with that, Giovanna, call the roll.
Okay, Commissioner Trapp?
Aye.
Commissioner Richard?
Aye.
Vice Chair, Chair Fields?
Aye.
Thank you, motion has passed.
Thank you to my fellow commissioners for entrusting me with this great responsibility.
Now I move that Honorable Commissioner Richard be put up for vice chair.
I will second that. And Giovanna, call the roll. Well, actually, do you accept?
Oh, sure.
Excellent, then I will second it and have Giovanna call the roll.
Commissioner Trapp?
Aye.
Chair Fields?
Aye.
Commissioner Richard?
Aye.
Excellent, that was not challenging. Good job, everybody. And Commissioner Jolniker, thank you for observing us in public debate. And with that, I will ask Joanne, any announcements?
Very quickly, just wanted to say we had a very successful extravaganza and there was no rain for the event, which was awesome. But staff did an amazing job, and it was very well attended. So that was a great event, last weekend. And the week prior to that, we had our, Police Activities League Lights and Sirens fundraiser, and that was also very well attended. I wanted to just give everyone a heads up that we are hiring for the summer. If you could spread the word, and certainly lifeguards are always a top priority. And then we do have a couple of upcoming events that I can give you more information about at our next meeting, but just to get on the radar, we have our 5K, PAL Star Vista Mental Health 5K happening on May 18th. And as King mentioned, our Fallen Heroes ribbon cutting will probably be delayed. I know we have sent out a save the date of May the 9th, but due to all the rain recently, we will likely be changing that date. So we will get you more information about that as soon as we have that solidified. Thank you.
Okay, with that, I also just want to say that our award-winning city clerk in the city of San Mateo is retiring, I believe at the end of this month, is that correct? Okay, I just want to say Patrice is amazing. It should be in the official record. We've been very lucky to have such an amazing city clerk. I imagine that staff agrees, and I want to say it for the official record for this commission that you know, we have had a really productive city in the last many years. In part thanks to Patrice, and we know that she has trained her replacement very well. But I'll just say I owe her a great debt of gratitude, and you know, I'm sure we'll retire.
She'll be recognized at the next city council meeting, so invite you to attend.
So yeah, I would say if any of you have ever done anything that touched the city, aside from this great work and interaction with Patrice, she deserves our sincere thanks, and I look forward to going to that council meeting. And with that, I will say thank you to everyone, and do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Excellent. I think we all agree.